Hello, welcome to Run Testers. I am Nick.
I'm Kieran.
And in this video we're going to be comparing the Nike ZoomX Streakfly and the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 8. Okay, so the Adidas Takumi Sen 8 and the Nike Streakfly are both examples of these kind of new, lower profile, short distance racing shoes from brands that already have kind of full carbon plate racing shoes that they're now kind of saying are more for longer distances, and these are the short distance shoes. That's kind of by virtue of the fact they have a slightly lower stack height and are lighter than those shoes. And they also end up being a fair bit cheaper, which is nice. Of these two, the Adidas is the more expensive shoe. It's £170 in the UK or $180 in the US. Whereas the Nike Streakfly is £134.95 in the UK or $160 in the US. The Takumi Sen has a stack height of 33mm at the heel, and the Streakfly is 32mm, and they both have a 6mm drop from heel to toe. The Streakfly is the lighter shoe of the pair. It's 182 grams in my UK size 9, which is 6.4 ounces, whereas the Takumi Sen weighs in at 194 grams. They both have very, very lightweight uppers. Adidas has got its Celamesh upper, which has a kind of slightly firmer, more restrictive feel, I think it's fair to say, than the kind of really comfortable, slightly looser mesh material on the Nike. The Nike has a bit more padding around the heel as well, which is quite surprising given how light it is. There's kind of fairly minimal padding on the Takumi Sen, and then kind of nothing really on the tongue of either shoe, as you'd expect. The Takumi Sen has a Light Strike Pro midsole, which Adidas's top foam, the stuff on the Adios Pro 2 and a few other shoes, and it's also got Adidas's Energy rods under the forefoot. Now these are a bit thinner and lighter and more flexible than the ones on the Adios Pro 2, but they still provide a kind of similar kind of snappy feeling to your toe off, whereas the Nike doesn't have a full length carbon plate. It just has a small kind of midfoot P-back shank in the shoe and doesn't really have anything to kind of provide that slightly snappier feeling that you get from a carbon shoe or a shoe with Adidas's Energy rods. It obviously has a ZoomX midsole, Nike's top foam, the stuff on the Vaporfly and Alphafly, and then it's got a fairly sparse covering of rubber on the underneath there, but you've got kind of two strips of extra rubber at the back, and then this kind of forefoot covering to provide a bit more traction, around the toe off where you need it most when you're pushing hard in short races. The Takumi Sen has a couple of those midfoot cutouts as well, midsole cutouts that you get on the Adios Pro 2. There's a little one on the forefoot and one on the midfoot there. And then it's got kind of slightly thin, tacky rubber around the kind of heel and running up the outside side of the shoe. And then on the inside forefoot, you've got this nice section of Continental rubber. Good grippy stuff that's going to provide reliable traction on your toe offs, again, when pushing hard in those shorter races. Let's start with the word and the fit of the shoes, because they fit very differently.
Yeah. First up, I ran in the UK 8.5, tried to go true to size. The Takumi Sen for me is very narrow. I've sort of struggled getting on. I've got quite kind of high feet and sort of slightly wide feet. And it was a real wrestle to get this on every time. Once it was on, it settled down. And actually when I was running, it was sort of comfortable enough. But it's a very tight, close fit for me. The Streakfly is basically much more roomy, a lot more room to display in the toe box. Perhaps a little bit even sort of too long for some people.
Yeah, it's got a bit more give in the upper as well, I think, the material. But yeah, this is a kind of slightly more classic-y racing flat style fit. Very narrow, very true to size, dead on, and perfect for me. I have a narrow foot. I love the fit of the shoe. It really, was nice, not the perfect amount of room on the toes. I could, comfortable for great any distance and just a really nice lockdown. Whereas this was too long for me, and because I have a narrow foot, I've got a bit of a kind of a fold in the upper, which isn't a problem. I've got that in lots of shoes because my foot is quite narrow, but it was more the length that was a problem. I think if you have a narrow foot like me, you probably could go half a size down and get a slightly more close fit for racing. But it's a really nice upper on this. The material, it does stretch very nicely, as this is a bit more kind of traditional locky down mesh. Onto the Run Test. So these are kind of the new leading lights in this new generation of short distance racing shoes, slightly lower stack than kind of the 40mm limit, they're kind of 30mm limit. Did you like running in them, Kieran?
I like running in both of them actually, for different reasons. I think they're both kind of good, nimble, kind of agile, punchy, exciting kind of shoe that put a smile on my face, made me want to go and run fast even when I wasn't feeling fast.
Yeah. And
yeah, I enjoyed the experience of both. Running them separately, and they're enjoyable. What's really interesting, we put them on and go and run a little bit with them. I ran each of them on at the same time, and the difference is huge actually in the way that they feel underfoot. This one, you've got that kind of, the stack doesn't compress as much. It feels a little bit firmer to me. You get a little bit more kind of I think, a little bit more sort of punch response. Whereas in the Streakfly, what happens, that midsole foam compresses quite a lot, and you kind of almost feel a little bit more like the ground is coming up towards your foot. It's a much more, I think, kind of pared back kind of feel, a lot more ground contact, and there's a little bit less protection.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, definitely. Like, I did a track session where I wore the Streakfly first and did kind of, it was 8 times 400 with 200 meter kind of recovery, but still running. So it ended up nearly 5k, kind of at 4.8k. And then I went straight into a 5k in this shoe, and it was stark, the difference in it. Like, this feels firmer, I think more propulsive from those rods, more protective, more kind of structured. The shoe I'd certainly enjoy going long, and yet they both feel very fast in different ways. Like, you've got this big, spongy, kind of soft pop from the, the Streakfly, which to me runs even lower drop than it is at 6 meters. Like, the stack is high, but it does feel lower because the foam compresses so much. Whereas this doesn't feel like a 6 millimeter drop. You can feel the high stack, and it feels more like a traditional super shoe in a way, and because you do get that slight firmness transition and the pop from the rods. Whereas this is a really quite almost a new feeling, I think, for me. Yeah. Like, some people have compared it to things like the Puma Liberate Nitro and the Rebel V2 from New Balance. They're very soft, kind of more training focused shoes, but it's softer than them for me and bouncier, definitely.
Yeah, and I just don't, again, that kind of, I think the important thing there is there's that protection that you might get in those shoes over longer miles. I'm just, in this, I'm not sure, you're definitely going to feel that ground, I think, a bit more. It's an interesting, because it does feel very different. It's not something that I've experienced. When you put it on, you're instantly aware of just how much it sinks down and how close. You can almost hear it, I think, when you're running in it. You can hear the kind of, it's not a crumpling, but it has that sort of sensation to it, I think.
Yeah, and I think this, as a result, I think this works very nice on the really short stuff. On the short, like probably up to 5k for me. I think when I'm running a bit harder, more on my midfoot, forefoot, and activating that plate, getting the pop from the foam. This, when I can settle back into my heel striking shuffling style for longer distances, feels great. The transition is really nice on this shoe. Actually, despite having a narrower heel than things like the Adios Pro, I get a really nice landing and roll through with it. I've loved it for kind of a 10k round kind of marathon pace. That 5k in that track session I was meant to be running a 17:30, and I ran like a 16:50, just rolling without even really thinking about it. It's a great shoe, I think, for protecting and holding a pace in races. And I think that's where, I've always rated super shoes, is in that kind of that middle, not the last quarter of the race, but kind of the third quarter and the slightly, the back end of the first half, where you're starting to dig deep and go, the end isn't in sight, but it's starting to hurt. That's when this shoe really works nicely, rolls through. I did a hard park run in it, and you just feel like it's helping you carry on, and your pace isn't dropping, and your energy is the same. Whereas this, I think you've got to work a bit more to get more out of it.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think also for that reason, if I were to sort of break these down into more specific uses, although they can sort of do the race, I would go sort of shorter and faster. I'd use this more for kind of my track interval work. So I was doing sort of 400 metre, 800 metre repeats, maybe sort of up to 5k half marathon at a stretch. I feel like the Takumi Sen can go a little bit further than that. It's got a little bit more range, mainly again because of that protection.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is very akin to kind of early carbon shoes, even something like the Asics Metaspeed Sky, which is the same size stack. It's got a full length plate. Like, those are shoes that are good for the marathon. This is a good marathon shoe. I'd still prefer the Vapefly, the Adios Pro, because I'd like the slightly cruisier, softer feeling of those shoes with the kind of plates they have, whereas this is a bit more direct and firm. But yeah, this is, I think, a great racing shoe for kind of those longer distances. I did a 5-mile race in the Streakfly, and I don't think I lost anything by being in the Streakfly. But before the race, in my mind, I was thinking I'd rather be in the Vapefly, the Takumi Sen, the Adidas. And after the race, I was like, probably next time I do a 5-mile race, I'd rather be in the Vapefly, the Takumi Sen. I think it's a good shoe. I just think it doesn't work that well for me. I think I have to work a bit hard for this. The pickup is lovely and light, and it's lighter than the Takumi Sen, but I think the way the foam and the small midfoot plate works just isn't as good on transition as the Takumi Sen when it comes to holding a pace. Even at the end of 5 miles, 5k, these are still long races. I still like the extra kind of slightly smoother feel of this shoe, firmer feel, as opposed to the more explosive maybe feel of this, which I think works better for me on shorter distances. Okay, verdict. There's a lot to unpick here, and I will say that if you want these shoes compared to other shoes, we have full reviews of both where we compare them to everything under the sun, but we're going to stick to kind of what's your gut telling you, Kieran, if you're buying one of these shoes. Let's just go purely on performance and not take price into account, and then we'll talk about price.
I think it's a really difficult one because I have enjoyed both. I think they're both good shoes. I don't think you'll be disappointed in either if you buy them, and I think they can go. For me, I want to smash these shoes together because I kind of like the underfoot performance of the Takumi Sen, but I find them a little bit uncomfortable in terms of the uppers. I don't enjoy putting them on. I don't enjoy the initial kind of lacing into them, and I think it just affects the way that I feel. And the Takumi Sen are not a shoe I always want to go and run in because of that. Whereas the Streakfly I find so comfortable to put on. They disappear on the foot the minute I put them on, and that's something I really love in my shoes. You put them on, you don't know they're there anymore. I'm aware of the Takumi Sen. I have to almost run into them a little bit every run that I go into. I don't get that with the Streakfly. Having said that, the Takumi Sen have got a little bit more range. So I think if you're looking for a bit more sort of value or sort of use case, then I think the Takumi Sen sort of lead over that. It's tight. It's a really, really tight one actually. I think if you're looking for something that's really targeted, if you want an up to sort of 5k or interval session shoe, and you want to buy something really specific for that, I think I would go for the Streakfly.
Okay, interesting. So I'm team Takumi. I actually prefer the fit of this just because I really like that lockdown upper it's got going on there. I think it is more versatile, like you say. I think even at those shorter distances, I find it just I think I just like the slightly firmer feel. Like I'm all in on soft and bouncy foams. Don't get me wrong, but I like them with a plate or the rods in them as well. Because otherwise they can be slightly spongy for me for the way I run. I really, really have liked running the Streakfly. I think we've done a lot of reviews where I've kind of said, I'm not sure I'd buy the Streakfly. It doesn't change the fact I've loved running in it.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's probably not the perfect shoe for me. What I'd use for it's a lovely shoe to knock out one interval session a week in. I think, but you can do that in the shoe just as well and then use it for other stuff. And the firmer feel, I think, just makes me feel a bit more secure when running fast, I think it's fair to say.
Durability, there's a question mark as well. I think we both feel a little bit like the Streakfly might give in a little sooner than the Takumi Sen.
Yeah, I definitely feel that's going to be like I think, and that's really reflected in the price. I think Nike's made the shoe really it's a very, very attractive price, £134, £35. If you're coming new to this whole world of racing shoes, then it's a really great thing to pick up. I think you should be saving the shoe for like one interval a week and your races. Takumi, I think you can use a lot more. And in the long run, you see 170 versus 135. Don't think that should be something that completely sways your decision, even though it is a fair bit cheaper. So I think, in terms of performance, I like the feel of the Takumi, and I think it probably does help me. As soon as I was over 5k, I think I'd be getting more from this in terms of protection later on in the race.
And if you own an Adios Pro 2 and you already own a Vaporfly, so there's almost an argument to say that these do partner up with those shoes better. So if you're used to the feel of a Vaporfly, you might potentially like this. Yeah. Arguably, it feels there's sort of some sort of. I just mean in terms of the way the uppers operate and the overall kind of feel on the foot. And if you come from an Adios Pro, you might have a bit. This might feel a little bit more familiar on the foot.
Yeah, that's right. I actually feel this is almost a shoe apart. I actually think this almost feels like the original Vaporfly 4% for me, and this just feels. Without a plate, it's just really noticeable how much difference the plate makes. I used the Vaporfly this week, and it kind of does feel much firmer and directed. And this is a very special shoe in a way. It's a very individual shoe, but it's just whether you love that feeling I guess is the problem.
And if you own those other shoes, I think in some of the other videos we've mentioned, if you already own the Pro 2 or the Vaporfly, maybe you don't need these.
No, I think Vaporfly is just as good at short distance races. I think the Takumi is a slightly better shoe for short distance races than the Adios Pro 2 and the Streakfly as well, but there's very little in it. I wouldn't be buying another one. But if you're just looking at these two new shoes, I think in terms of an all-round versatile racing shoe, I'd get the Takumi myself, but you are getting a little bit of a bargain here with the Streakfly. That is it, guys. That's our comparison of the Adidas Takumi Sen and the Nike ZoomX Streakfly. Have you used both shoes? Which do you prefer? He's got coffee. I'll keep talking. Kieran!
All of them. What was the question?
What should these guys do if they want to know more about these shoes?
They should definitely ring the bell, probably like and subscribe.
And watch our full reviews, definitely as well.
And go and check out all the reviews. We've done the full reviews, the other comparisons.
We've done some individual workout. I've done an individual comparison of these on one workout, and we've done some first run. We've done a lot of content on these shoes because we love these shoes and they're really cool to put on camera. So go and watch all those videos, ring the little bell, and we'll do some race videos probably down the line. Do some more racing in them, see how they feel. See you later.